Among Donald Trump's first-day executive orders were a number of sweeping directives on immigration. Barb touched on one or two there, some of which advocacy groups argue are illegal, and at least one of which appears to contradict some plain wording of a key constitutional amendment. Hannah Flamm from International Refugee Assistance Project joins us now from Washington, DC for more on this. Hannah, thanks so much for your time this morning, or this evening where you are. The immigration crackdown was a real cornerstone of Trump's election campaign. It's safe to assume, I guess, some of these orders were anticipated, at least to some extent. How have groups, migrant support groups and legal teams been preparing for this?
We have been preparing for more than a year. The Trump administration officials now, previously members of the campaign of foundations that are integral to the Trump agenda, have been publicizing their playbook. And so we have been preparing. IRAP, the International Refugee Assistance Project, like many other organizations, have been preparing for this moment. And as you alluded to, there have been 2 lawsuits filed already challenging the Birthright citizenship executive order. And we are ready to go to court as appropriate to challenge these unlawful and bigoted policies.
And so Trump has been moving on this very quickly. We've seen a flurry of executive orders made, some of them designed to close the borders, expel undocumented immigrants. Where are your biggest concerns right now?
I would break the concerns down into 4 categories. First, there are the immigration executive orders that drastically undermine the rule of law and democracy in America. I'm talking about deploying the military domestically in violation of the Constitution, violating the 14th Amendment with the Birthright citizenship executive order. A second category that we are deeply concerned about is the enforcement within the United States. Just in the last couple of hours, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, announced the elimination of the sensitive locations policy. In other words, they are now authorizing enforcement actions, ICE, police, going to sensitive locations like schools, like hospitals. We're talking about preschools and maternity wards where families could be separated in the interior of the United States. The third category that we are deeply concerned about is the border and also refugee resettlement from across the globe to the United States. In the last hour, DHS has also announced reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, which causes severe, egregious harm to people who are seeking protection inside the United States. As asylum seekers, they have the right to do that. And this Remain in Mexico policy mandates that asylum seekers live in dangerous conditions in Mexico. There is documented cases of kidnapping and torture that are the direct result of this U.S. policy that has previously been found unlawful and now has come back. And this is examples of the concerns that we have. Happy to say more if helpful.
Hannah, I wanted to touch on this issue of the switching off of the CBP1 app, which is something that many new migrants use. That happened within minutes of the president taking his oath. 30,000 migrants had sort of appointments pending through that app. I guess I just point to this one because it's an example of where the impact for this, for some families, presumably will be immediate.
Absolutely. The CBP1 phone application system to seek access to a U.S. port of entry to present and be paroled into the United States is a program that the U.S. government established precisely to be able to control and impose order on who gets access to the United States, to be able to vet people. It actually is a very harmful policy, but it was in place and many hundreds of thousands of people were using it. At the time that it was terminated yesterday, an estimated 270,000 people were waiting for an appointment, in addition to the 30,000 that you indicate had appointments. And these are people who have been waiting as long as 8 months to be able to seek safety in the United States in accordance with what the U.S. government exhorted them to do. These are people who are trying to follow the rules, to do everything that the US government asks of them to be able to come to the United States, and then suddenly the entire system disappears.
This executive order to end birthright citizenship, that is something enshrined in the 14th Amendment. It was ratified back in 1868. Can you just talk through how fundamental a principle that is for the US and how important it is for migrant families?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a bedrock principle. It is hundreds of years of precedent, or 120 years in addition to being in the Constitution. And it will not stand in court. It is doomed. However, issuing this executive order telegraphs to people in the United States that you may not have a US citizen child, even if your child is born in the United States. In other words, it is sowing fear, even if the executive order is ultimately not upheld. What this effectuates, what this seeks to effectuate, is a permanent underclass, second-class citizens. The reason that it is in the Constitution that it is the right of every person born in the United States to be a US citizen is precisely to avoid a political determination of who is worthy of US citizenship. It is expressly to avoid what is happening now that this provision is in the 14th Amendment.
The United States is known as a nation of immigrants. I mean, looking ahead to the next 4 years, how are you feeling about the prospect of that changing, as it seems that the Trump administration is seeking to do, to sort of refute that idea of the US being a place of migrants?
Just as much as the Trump administration seeks to destroy core American values about being a welcoming society, there is a massive, powerful, energized movement to challenge every single Trump action. In other words, we don't envision the United States becoming the place that Trump wants it to be. That is unrecognizable. We are going to fight at every juncture to prevent that from happening, in concert with impacted communities, both within and outside the United States, and many other advocacy organizations.
Hannah Flamm from the International Refugee Assistance Project. We have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. Really great to have your insights.
Thank you.